What's up, everybody? My name is Trifecta J, and today I am making my return to Madden with a brand new Madden 21 franchise. Haven't done Madden in a while, but I'm very excited to get back to it and rebuild a brand new team. I'm excited to get this started and to have a new series on my channel to add to the South Dakota Dynasty. I think this one should be a lot of fun. I will tell you currently the team is from the AFC. It is a conference that has a ton of talent. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. They have a ton of young, really talented quarterbacks, and it's going to be a tough climb in this conference. You'll meet the team in just a second. I considered a number of teams for this year, and I finally narrowed it down to the final one. I think it's one that has a lot of exciting potential, and they're going to be working back to their former glory days. Like I said, there were a ton of teams to choose from. There's a lot of teams with some young talent and things like that. But now we will meet the team. It's gonna be the Miami Dolphins. They have one of the most illustrious NFL's histories. They were very successful at one point, but they have only made the playoffs a few times since 2002. They added a number of free agent signings, and we have to talk about the teams they will be playing. First off is probably the best dynasty in the NFL history, and they lost their star quarterback in Tom Brady, and they have a brand new face of the franchise. We'll have to see how they're able to continue. Next is the Buffalo Bills. They're one of the most exciting young teams and up-and-coming teams. They made the playoffs last year. They have Josh Allen quarterback, a very good defense. And then the New York Jets, they're currently a laughingstock of the NFL, but they have an exciting young quarterback, and they're trying to find their way back to being a top team in the AFC. But the Dolphins, it's been 47 years since their last Super Bowl, back when they had Bob Greasy. They have the only undefeated season in NFL history. Like I said, the Patriots have absolutely dominated this division, but Tom Brady has moved on. Bill Belichick is still there, and they'll try and find a way to be successful now. Their Dolphins' last playoff win was in 2000. They haven't actually made the playoffs since 2016, and they've only been twice since 2002, and they also only have 3 winning seasons since 2004. But when we consider talking about this team, we first have to get into the roster. So when we talk about this roster, we first, of course, have to start with the biggest signing for the Dolphins in this offseason, Byron Jones. He's 27 and now his 6th year out of UConn, and they paid a lot of money. They gave him a 5-year, $82 million deal. He's fast, he can cover in zone, compress, and also has good man coverage. And he is the real cornerstone currently of this defense and will lock down one side for us against the best receivers in the NFL. And I expect really good things from him. He is under contract for a while, and we may start to see regression somewhat soon. So that is one thing to definitely keep in mind when we talk about him. Another big signing for them, they gave Kyle Van Noy a 4-year, $51 million deal to come over with Brian Flores from the Patriots. He's 29 and in his 7th year. He really does a lot of things very well. He's fast, he can get off blocks, he can rush the passer, he can cover in zone. He's a true hybrid linebacker and is one of those guys that you would definitely see in the Patriots defense, and now will be along the left side of our front 7. And I expect good things from him in this first season as a Dolphin for him. After that, we have Devontae Parker. He had a breakout season, having over 1,000 yards for the Dolphins last year. He's 27. He's a big downfield threat. He has speed to get downfield. He's a decent route runner, great spectacular catch, and great in traffic, and will be the number 1 target for whoever the quarterback of the future is for the Dolphins. We'll get into who that is in just a little bit. Making up the second part of the highest paid quarterback tandem in the NFL is Xavier Howard. He was signed to a large deal. He's out of Baylor, 27 also, so he's the same age as Byron Jones. He's not quite as good in coverage, but is a good athlete just like Byron Jones. He's really good at taking the football away, has a number of interceptions in his career. He's better in zone than man and can also press, so I expect this team to run a lot of zone. and I expect him to lock down the other side of this defense and really give us probably the best 1-2 combination at corner in the NFL. So now we'll get into the quarterback, the most important position in the NFL. Right now, the starter will be Ryan Fitzpatrick, the journeyman out of Harvard. You know what you're getting with him. Fitzmagic, when it's on, it's one of the most exciting things to watch. But he's up there in age, and he may only be around for this one season. He may retire afterwards, but he has a steady hand that he can have on this offense. He threw for over 3,000 yards last year and 20 touchdowns, but did throw 13 interceptions. He's definitely a known quantity, so you know exactly what you're going to get out of him, and it's definitely not a bad starter to open this series. The Dolphins did use the number 5 overall pick, though, to take Tua Tagovailoa out of Alabama. He's got hidden development. He's not a big guy. Injuries are a big question when it comes to him. But as an actual quarterback, he has athleticism. He can make nearly any throw that you want. He doesn't have the biggest arm in the NFL. He's not going to wow you with that like a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. But he has great accuracy, especially for a rookie. He can make plays on the run, under pressure, and pretty much do anything that you ask out of him. And right now, he is the quarterback of the future. As long as he can stay healthy and doesn't prove us wrong in that factor, I think he's definitely the quarterback of the future and someone to be very excited about. So now we can look at the offense more as a whole, then we'll move to the defense. So at quarterback, we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua. At running back, they went out and signed Jordan Howard. He got a 2-year, $9.7 million deal coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. He had a really good rookie season for the Bears, but has slowed down after that. He doesn't have elite athleticism, but he is a good power back, and we'll see how much value he can provide at the running back position. The Dolphins also went out and got another running back. They traded for Matt Breida. He's coming over from the 49ers. They gave up a 5th-round pick from him. He's also 25, and he's a nice complement currently to Jordan Howard. He has elite speed at the running back position, and when he gets into the open field, you will not catch him. He can also do a decent job of catching the ball out of the backfield, and I think for at least year one, they definitely provide a great 1-2 punch for us. It will be interesting to see as the series progresses how long they stay with this team and what the future are for those two. One guy to quickly mention, he's seen a lot of the work so far this year. It's Myles Gaskin. He is in his third season now out of Washington. He was an incredibly productive running back at Washington. He doesn't have elite speed, but can make you miss in the open field, and it's just a nice young back that we can develop some and see where he goes to. At the wide receiver position, we already talked about Devontae Parker. Preston Williams is still a young wide receiver out of Colorado State. He's a big body at 6'4". He had a good season last year, having 428 yards on 32 catches. He has pretty solid hands. He definitely needs to develop as a route runner, but when you throw the ball up to him, there's a very good chance he's going to come down with it. Another thing to mention with our wide receivers is Albert Wilson and Allen Hurns both opted out of the season, and they will not be playing for us. Outside of the top two, we have some intriguing guys, but no one that's truly solidified themselves as a number 3 receiver. First is Jakeem Grant. He's only 5'7", probably closer to 5'6", but he has elite speed. He's a kick return specialist who does have the ability to catch the football, and we'll have to see, can he get better as a receiver, or will he stay as a return specialist for us? The other receiver to keep an eye on is Isaiah Ford. He's only 24, already in his 4th year out of Virginia Tech. He doesn't have the speed that someone like Jakeem Grant has, but does have better size at 6'2". I like his build. He has good hands, needs to develop as a route runner, but he did have 23 catches for 244 yards last year, and it's just another interesting young guy who we can see how he develops. Another guy, just to mention real quickly, is Lynn Bowden. He was a really jack of all trades for Kentucky, and the Dolphins traded for him from the Raiders. He was a decently high draft pick, but they traded for him at the end of training camp. We'll see what he's able to develop into. Along the offensive line, we have some intriguing players, but it is probably the biggest weakness of this team. the Dolphins drafted Austin Jackson with the 18th overall pick. He's a big body, but he's still very raw, and will be our left tackle. We'll have to see how he's able to develop only with normal development. And he is very young though. He was, I believe, the second youngest player maybe in this draft. He's only 21, and hopefully he can develop into something good for us. At left guard, Eric Flowers, he really struggled in the beginning of his career, but last year transitioned to guard, and the Dolphins gave him a 3-year, $30 million deal. So making $10 million a year, we're going to need him to really play well for us. He's a better run blocker than a pass blocker. That was a big part of why he moved to guard, and we'll have to see how he's able to do. The Dolphins drafted Solomon Kinley in the 4th round out of Georgia. He is a massive man at 6'3", 337. He's another guy who's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker, but he has a long way to go if we want to see him be a starter for us, especially with normal development. Michael Dieter and Ted Karras are at center. Karras will be the starter. He's 27, and he's a pretty balanced blocker, decently strong, good lead blocker, but I'm not sure, and I'm pretty certain he won't be the future for us there. Robert Hunt and Jesse Davis are at right tackle. Jesse Davis will be the starter to open the season. Robert Hunt is definitely an interesting guy. He was taken in the 2nd round, and I'm not sure if his future is best at tackle or guard, and whether he can develop into a starting caliber player. Now at tight end, we have Mike Gesicki, 6'6", 250, and he is a field stretcher. He had a good rookie season for the Dolphins, having 51 catches for 570 and 5 touchdowns. I have high hopes for him. He's not a guy who's going to block for you at all, but as a field stretching, receiving tight end, he has good speed, great hands, needs to develop a little bit in his route running, but I think he is probably the future, especially with star development, and already an 81 overall as a 24-year-old out of Penn State. Now along the defensive side of the ball, they went out and made a couple moves. One guy to mention is Emmanuel Ogbah. He came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. They gave him $7.5 million a year over 2 years, so $15 million total. He's a pass rusher who is still relatively young at 26, but hasn't totally proved himself yet, and we'll have to see how he's able to play. Christian Wilkins was taken last year with the 13th overall pick, and he had a productive rookie season. He's a better pass rusher currently than he is a run stopper, but I think he could definitely develop into at least a rotational defensive lineman. My big worry with him is the normal development, but I really like what I see. He's not the quickest guy, but I just think he could definitely be a great player for us. Then the last player to mention along the defensive line is Devon Godchaux, and he is in his 4th year out of LSU. He's flashed at different moments, but hasn't made a consistent impact yet for the Dolphins. He's a good run stopper. He's big and strong and can also rush the passer. So I have high hopes for him, and hopefully he can be more consistent. The other corner to mention outside of Byron Jones and Xavier Howard is Noah Igbinoghene. He is only 20 years old, so he's currently the youngest player in the NFL. He's a smaller corner at 5'10", but he is a decent tackler for that size. He's a former track guy, so you know he has good speed. He currently can press pretty well, and he was taken with the 30th overall pick to be a nickel corner, so we're going to need him to play well to really justify using such a high draft pick on him. He has a long way to go, though, in terms of his actual coverage ratings. Outside of his press ability and with only normal development, there are definite concerns there. The final players in the front 7, first off is Shaq Lawson. He was given a 3-year, $30 million deal coming over from the Buffalo Bills. He had his best season of his career last year. He can rush the passer to some extent, but I do worry about how much he can really develop. He hasn't been super great so far in his NFL career and hasn't lived up to the hype coming out of Clemson, and we'll have to see how he's able to develop. Jerome Baker and Landon Roberts are the final 2 players in the front 7. Jerome Baker only in his 3rd season out of Ohio State. He's an elite athlete at the linebacker position, and he does a great job of coming up with tackles. He led the team with 126 last year, And I really hope with the athleticism he currently possesses, if he can get a little bit better in coverage, I think he can make a huge impact for this team. Then the final two players to mention in the secondary, it's Bobby McCain. He spent his whole career so far with the Dolphins, and he has now moved to free safety over from corner with the signing of Byron Jones. I don't really know how I feel about Bobby McCain. I think he was a decent corner for them, but as the future for free safety, I just don't really see it currently. He could definitely prove me wrong though. And then the final player is Eric Rowe. He spent a little bit of time with the Patriots. A lot of players on this team have spent time with the Patriots, which definitely makes sense with Brian Flores being the head coach. He's a little bit older. He's a decent athlete, but not a great tackler, not a great hitter, and not great in coverage. So I think strong safety could be a big priority for us either in the draft or in free agency. One final player to mention that I am really high on, it's Raekwon Davis. He's a rookie out of Alabama. He's 6'6", 313, so he's a big body. He flashed at Alabama, but wasn't as consistent as people had hoped, which was a big part of him falling towards near the bottom of the second round. Right now, he is a very good run stopper. He's very strong, has some decent athleticism for either the defensive tackle or a 3-4 end, and I think his pass rushing ability could definitely develop, and I have very high hopes for him. But currently, I think this team, they have some nice young players, some players you can build around, but in terms of total talent level, they have a long way to go if they want to make the playoffs. They, like I said earlier, have only made the playoffs twice since the early 2000s, so it's been a long time since this team has seen the success they had in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But I'm very excited for this team. I think they, like I said, have a lot of players you can build around Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, Tua, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, and it'll be a lot of fun to add talent to this team through free agency, through draft picks, and all that type of stuff. Speaking of draft picks, through a few trades, the Dolphins have some extra draft capital this year. They have 2 first-round picks, they have their own, and then 1 from Houston. And then they also have an extra second-round pick from Houston, both of those coming from the Laramie Tunsil trade. They have a 3rd round, a 4th round pick from the Raiders, so they don't actually have their own 4th round, 5th round, or 7th round pick. So this is going to be a draft where we're going to have to focus a lot at the top and try and get some immediate impact players, because we're not going to be able to find probably a lot of value in these later rounds with the lack of draft capital. But in terms of actual free agents coming up after year 1, we have Matt Breida in the final year of his deal. We have Devon Godchow, and he's a guy I think we're going to have to sign. I'm not sure how expensive he's going to be. Albert Wilson not playing this year. I'm not sure what his future is going to be with us. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I could possibly and probably think he may retire after this year, opening the door for Tua. I'm not sure how much Tua will play in this first year. It'll probably depend on the play of Ryan Fitzpatrick, but I really would like to allow him to sit for the first year, develop, and then allow him to start for the future for us. But outside of that, there's not a whole ton of impact players who won't be this team beyond this year, especially at the top part of the roster. So that's not a huge concern, and we will have a decent amount of cap room with $54.3 million in cap space. But I'm very excited to get this series underway. We will be starting actually in week 4 using the real life stats and schedule. So I expect the first episode to go up sometime later this week. That is the goal. So we'll be taking in week 4 playing the Seattle Seahawks, and we are currently 1-2, just beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. But like I said, I'm very excited to be back playing Madden and doing a Madden franchise. If you liked today's intro episode, please leave a like down below. Comment on your thoughts on this series. Who are the players currently on the roster who you think will have the biggest long-term impact for this team? Who are some players maybe we should target? And what are the biggest positions of need when the offseason does come around? But I will see you for week 4, the first game of this series. It'll be coming up later this week. Hope you have a great rest of your day.